Volkswagen Polo. 6 generations to its name. And a classic first-time car for first-time drivers.
Hello fans, and welcome to Wheels on the Road episode 2. It's taken us quite a while to get here. I do apologise, scheduling conflicts. I had to go back to university, which is always a bit difficult. Aaron, of course, is in full-time employment, as Alfred. As such, our schedules are kind of full. But we're back. Took us a while. We're here now. We have with us today a Volkswagen Polo Mark V. I'll go into more detail about that in this episode. That's what it's for. You may remember, if you follow our social media, a couple of months back, you saw this car and me in lovely weather, shorts, t-shirt. It was lovely. Unfortunately, plans went awry, footage got lost, and we've had to start again. But hey-ho, always lovely to make episodes for you. It is now November, so it's colder, hence the attire. If my watch is listening, good. It bleeps, and sometimes she listens, and it's horrible. Siri starts talking back to me when he realises he has no idea what I'm saying. It gets very amusing. I just wanted to make sure that didn't happen. It did happen. I don't know if you saw it. In one of the Defender films, I have my hand on the steering wheel, and it happened. See if you can spot that in our videos. But enough about the admin, onto the car. So here it is, car of the episode, Volkswagen Polo. As I said before, this particular Polo is a Mark V generation, launched in 2009, retired in 2017 for the Mark VI, which is the current production Volkswagen Polo you can go and buy today. More about that in a minute. We got this, the Mark V, back in 2010, so the second year of the Mark V's life, so to speak, although the first official year because car production years, never mind. So we got this car in 2010, and we got it at the time because my eldest brother was learning to drive. We needed a car for us to practice and then drive once we got to drive. Now, as a first car, there are certain elements that you need that you don't need in your future cars, and when you're a car enthusiast like myself and Alfred, buying a first car is really rather painful because you want the cars your parents have. You want the Mercedes, the BMW, or maybe you don't, but the point is, Ferrari or Porsche, you want a car that has some oomph in the engine. You want to feel it when you put the accelerator down. You want a car that can handle well, accelerate well, that looks nice. You don't want a first car because the first car is inherently slow. The engine is small, the fuel economy is great, which you never actually have a problem with fuel economy. You always want good fuel economy, especially in times like these when the price of petrol and diesel is just absolutely insane. Electric cars do have a place in the world. Unfortunately, this isn't 2010, this is petrol. 3-cylinder petrol engine, actually. But more on that later. So we were looking at a whole bunch of first cars. For first cars, you want low road tax, you want a low insurance group, you want a cheap to run car, not just cheap to buy, obviously you want cheap to buy, but you want cheap to run, so if you've got maintenance costs, you want the maintenance not to have to be done so often, so reliable, and you want that when there is a problem, you want the maintenance to be cheap, because you're 17, you don't have much money, unless you do, at which point good for you. On top of being cheap to buy, cheap to run, you also want a low insurance. Insurance companies, well, they're not very fun. They seem to think all young people are going to have an accident. I mean, statistically it makes sense. You've never driven before, you're going to have an accident, which means if you try and get a car with a fairly big engine or halfway decent engine, halfway decent size, the insurance is going to be absolutely extortionate. I remember when I was 15, I was just playing around on Go Compare, and I typed in the license plate of a really old Land Rover Discovery to see how much it would cost to insure if I was a 16-year-old. The quote I got was £10,000, and all it covered was fire damage, which, for anyone watching overseas, is illegal to drive in the UK because it means you're not even third-party covered on the roads, and you need to be insured to drive on the roads, which is always fun. £10,000 and I still couldn't drive the car on the road. What exactly were they giving me that quote for? I don't know. But the point is, unless you get a small engine car like a Volkswagen Polo, it is going to be extremely expensive to insure. Another reason why we're looking at the Volkswagen Polo. We're looking at other cars too, but we'll have them with us, and so I don't really feel there's a point in mentioning them because this is the Polo's film. Why rain on the parade? So After we took all of those into consideration, we then started looking for what cars do we want that fit that. The Volkswagen Polo stood out because in 2010 it was voted Car of the Year. Incidentally, this year, 2021, Car Wow has voted Volkswagen Polo as the #1 car. Of course, when I looked this up and was doing the research for this was in June. How they can vote a car #1 of the year in June when we're halfway through the year, I don't actually understand. We are now November and the rating holds, so I'm going to leave it be, but how? As for other factors for why they went for this car, we've always had an awareness of Volkswagen, and they do have a good... Did that just fall in front of the camera?
We've always had an awareness of Volkswagen, and they do have a...
But back to the car, and not my comprehension of how websites rate cars. Looking up Car of the Year 2010 seemed like a good option, so we went to VW. I can't speak, I'll say that line again. So we went to Volkswagen in Guildford. It was my brother, my father, my mother and I came along for the simple reason that we wanted to know in the back how comfortably could you fit adults. Of course, I was 11 at this time, not really an adult. In fact, for anybody who knows me, I was tiny until about 17. And I do mean tiny. So I was piggy in the middle, quite literally, in the rear seat. We tested it very, very thoroughly and took the car for a test drive. We took the demo that they had. We liked the demo so much when we came back for the test drive, I say we, my parents, that they ended up buying the demo, which is this car. This was a demo. Back in 2010 at Volkswagen Guildford, this was a demo. And we bought it. The colour is lovely, we really liked it. It's called Shadow Blue, if you're interested. Volkswagen still offer it, which is nice. We ended up buying the demonstration model from the showroom. The reason we did that is it's a very good thing to do. If you're trying to buy a car and you are buying a new car, you're not buying a second-hand car, and you go to the dealership, instead of going, oh, well, you know, you've got this car in stock, I'll buy that. That's a good option because it's not time, the car exists. But if you are actually going to buy a car from scratch, meaning the factory has to make it, then they have to ship it because generally manufacturing is done in Europe and has to get shipped over here, you're looking at about a couple of months waiting time, and it's going to be more pricey because you're obviously going to configure it to exactly how you want. Whereas if you buy a demonstration model, or as they become an X-demo because you bought it, the car company will treat it like a second-hand car because they've been using it. So you get a good deal on it. Fun tip. So, here's the car, Volkswagen Polo. Quickly, before we go into more detail about it though, I mention this because Volkswagen own a lot of car companies. Off the top of my head, they own Audi, they own Lamborghini, they own Porsche, they own Bentley, and they own Bugatti, and Seat. That's 6 off the top of my head. I know they own more as well. Fun story as well, a little aside, I admit, when Volkswagen bought Porsche, Porsche at the time was owned by the Porsche family who didn't want to sell, but they did sell, so the Porsche family responded by buying majority shares in Volkswagen. They lost their company to a company that they then bought. I just love that story, I wanted to share it, sorry. I mention all of this because Volkswagen have a little tendency to take a car that they have, Volkswagen Polo, and give it to the other companies that they own for those companies to sell it again. This has come up with this car, the Polo, because Audi A1 and the Seat Ibiza Mark IV are also Volkswagen Polos. I mean, they're not, they're Audi A1s and they're Seat Ibiza Mark IVs, but the point is, the shell of the car is the exact same as the shell of the Polo. The engine will be slightly different, it'll be Audis or Seats, the trim will be different, the colours will be different, but the shell and the actual styling will be the same. Same happens also with Skoda, although that's more with the Volkswagen Up and the Skoda Me, or the Skoda Citigo, actually I think they call it. Point is, if you actually look at the cars, you'll see exactly what I'm meaning. But enough about clever little money-making schemes from Volkswagen, onto the actual car.
Here we see the Volkswagen Polo from the driver's side at the front of the car. And as we move along, we see that the first thing, the indicator light is concealed within the wing mirror housing of the car, which is a common practice in cars these days and reflects that while the Polo may be a cheap car to buy, it still keeps up with convention and shows even a level of sophistication. Moving along, we see that this is a 3-door car. This means that while the car can take passengers in the back, there is no door exclusively for them, which is reflected in the length of the door. It is so that not only can the driver get in, but the door can be opened wide enough and the seat folded forward that passengers can get into the rear comfortably. This also shows that while the driver's door and the passenger's door do have electric windows that roll down, the windows in the rear are fixed. They do not open neither by electric motors or by manual winders. Moving further along down the car, we see the fuel filler cap, which has no obvious signs of how it is opened. It is cleverly concealed. It is simply you push to open. Pushing it in a little bit makes it pop out, at which point you open it as you would any other car, and within there's the trusty cap, like on all cars. To close, you simply push down and push in, and it clips in place. Here, toward the back of the car, we see the boot door, or boot lid, as it is sometimes called. First, what one may notice is that there doesn't appear to be any sign of an actual handle to open the door. This is because the handle is cleverly concealed within the VW badge that takes centre stage in the door. You simply push in at the top of the badge, which releases the mechanism, while simultaneously allowing the rear of the badge to be used as a handle and lever to pull open the boot door. Viewing the car from the left-hand side or the passenger hand side, you'll see that like with every other car, there's symmetry in that they look the same, including if you look carefully at the door handle, a keyhole to allow the car to be locked. This car has central locking, so you only need to lock one door, but it does not have remote central locking, so you do need to put the key in the keyhole. Here, when we get close to the front of the Polo, we can see a direct comparison between the Polo's radiator grille and the Defender's. The Polo's is slanted for aerodynamic efficiency, and its radiator grille is really very small. This is obviously a direct contrast to the Defender, which we covered in our last episode. The fins of the radiator grille are also angled to direct airflow into the radiator while also cutting through the air as efficiently as possible, reducing air resistance. Also down toward the bottom of the radiator grille, you can see a hole which was caused by a strike on the car from debris at some point in its history. As with many other cars, at the centre of the radiator grille, and indeed the bonnet, is the car manufacturer's badge. Here, when we have an in-depth look at the wheels, which unlike more expensive cars, the Volkswagen only has steel rims as opposed to alloys, and the steel rims are covered, because they're generally considered unsightly, by a plastic hubcap. Furthermore, when you get a look at the profile of the wheel, you see that it's quite narrow as opposed to other sportier cars or off-roading tyres, which require large amounts of rubber to increase the traction. The Polo, being a small, cheap and easy-to-run car, has narrow wheels which reduce rolling resistance on the road, increasing the car's efficiency.
So, obviously when you're buying a car, you want it cheap. The first car's no exception. However, I'm going to give you a cautionary tale. One of the things that this car had as an optional extra, which we decided, I say we, my parents, to save money, to not get. Air conditioning. Don't. Always get air conditioning. I cannot tell you the number of times my mother, my father, and my brothers and I have all independently agreed not getting air conditioning in this car was a giant mistake. Granted, air conditioning is very expensive for what it is, but it is so worth it. Because here's the point, okay? When a car doesn't actually have air conditioning in it, the way the heating works is very simple. Air comes into the car as part of the cooling, gets circled around the engine, which is hot because it's a vessel containing explosions, which heats up the air, and then that air gets blown through a fan with another heating element and out through the vents in the car into the car to heat you up. The heating is fine. It's the cooling that's the problem. Because on the really hot days of summer, when you're driving through the air, and the air is 22 degrees or more, the car can't cool it down. All it does is it takes in that air, puts it around the engine as little as possible, because it doesn't want to heat it, blows it out a fan at you. all that's doing is taking the outside air that is already too hot and blowing it in your face. It does nothing to cool you down. But you see, the car has windows. You open these windows and nothing happens at low speed. At high speed, you cannot hear yourself think, because you get all the sound buffering as the aerodynamics happen, as air comes against the face of the car and the window's missing. So always get air conditioning is what I'm saying, because it will just be so unpleasant otherwise. And I can speak properly because I have the Polo. And I can speak properly because the Polo has this problem and the Defender has this problem. I have two cars I can drive. Neither has air conditioning. So seriously, even if it's a first car, even if you've never had a car before, get air conditioning in your car. I'm going to speed up now because it's looking like it's going to rain. Other factors we went for, it is actually splitting. The car has a 3-cylinder engine. This produces 60 brake horsepower and 79 pounds per foot of torque. Very respectable for a car. It's got a good amount of get up and go to it in the right scenario. I don't actually know the quoted top speed. I should. Problem being, we've never actually, you don't need to, because the speed limits in this country is 70. What's the point in knowing a top speed? You don't go beyond 70. Legally, you can't. Of course, everyone does. Unofficially, it's quite easy to do 100 in this car. I've been told. I wouldn't know. How could I? You don't go above 70. Apart from that, as I say, we were being, I don't want to use the word cheap, but we were being price economic. Is that a word, price economic, when we were buying this car? Price economic. I'm looking at Aaron, he's nodding. Price economic is a phrase we're using. So, heated seats, integrated sat-nav, intercommunication, multimedia, what's the word I'm looking for? Every car has it these days. There's a word for the computers in cars, and I forget what it is. We didn't get that in this car. We're fine, it's raining, we're fine. Sorry, Aaron and I are having a bit of communication here behind the camera. It's getting worse, I'm cutting this. But we will be back when it stops raining in a couple minutes. Thank you, England! Welcome back after our quick break from the rain. I know it doesn't look like it's rained, I'm nice and dry. The car is wet, and we see the wet car, the frosted windows. It rained for about 20 minutes. And the air's moving that way, and there's a big horrible cloud over there. So to prevent being rained off, we're actually going to get inside the car and deliver the rest of this program on the road. Wheels on the road, being filmed on the road. We're getting a lot of road in today. So we're going to cut to black, and for you, you're going to fade in like a second from black, and we'll be in this car with a lovely setup. We're going to spend half an hour setting it up, but you don't get to see that. It's so wonderful, the magic of the edit. See you in about 2 seconds. So, you join us inside the Volkswagen Polo for the rest of this review, which will be an on-the-road review, simply so we can deal with the rain. I don't know if you can see him. Aaron is in back. Say hi, Aaron. Hello. And this is unfortunately the setup for the rest of the episode. So, last we spoke, I was telling you outside that we're coming inside and that we don't have air conditioning, which is a problem. The heating, however, is fairly good. I've got it on low right now, it's lovely. The word I was looking for earlier, I have remembered, infotainment. You know, the multimedia, having an integrated sat-nav, Apple CarPlay, all of that infotainment system we don't have in this. It's a basic car. But what we have is good, it works, it's a great car, I do enjoy it, it's manual as well, I do love a good manual car. Automatics are fantastic, don't get me wrong, especially for long motorway journeys or terrible city stop-start traffic. Motorways are terrible for that, but for this, we're absolutely fine. I said motorways are terrible for that, didn't I? That's wrong, obviously. Well, manuals are terrible for that, and automatic is where it's at, because that's just what you want. It's so much easier, you have to worry about gear changes, but on a road like this, nice and empty, a manual's a really good thing to have, and fun, not to mention fun. Always fun. Saying that too much. It's a 5-speed gearbox, like I said, 60 brake horsepower, it's not much. I believe I called it modest earlier. My Defender's got 122, and that is universally known as not a fast car, but this has give me a break. My concentration's split. But it's a good car all around. Fun fact: this isn't actually just a Polo. This is an S-line trim. The S-line really doesn't do much because we didn't go for optional extras. It just lets you have a few more optional extras. I think the engine is a bit sportier and more powerful than obviously Volkswagen wanted that. We didn't buy it for the S-line trim. Volkswagen obviously wanted that so they could have a bit more oomph in their demonstration car. It is good. The wipers, the standard wipers, standard configuration, which I complained about in the Defender. Standard configuration. Horn is in the centre, and there's an airbag too. There's an airbag over there. There's airbags. It's wonderful. Safety systems abound in this car. In other words, it's a regular car. Horn, wipers, lights. I mean, directional indicators over here, really. And driving is good fun. It is. I like it. Aaron, got any complaints back there? Sitting in the back, cramped? Because this is a 3-door. They offer the Polo in a 3-door or a 5-door. This version is a 3-door, but there is 5 seats. So Aaron is most definitely a grown man now. He's in the world of work, so we can definitely consider him a man. Grown up, an adult. He's in the back. Let's hear from him.
It's actually quite comfortable, the seats in the back. There's plenty of leg room. The one thing I'd say is obviously with 3-door models, it's always a bit of acrobatics to get in, but other than that,
Yeah, you sort of need to moonlight a bit as a contortionist.
yeah.
Interesting enough, Aaron is saying it's great, and obviously you can't see this, but my seat is in the driving position. I'm 6 foot, and there is very little legroom behind me. Aaron, with nobody in front of him, has the seat all the way to the forward, which is why he has legroom. So it's also a bit of Jenga or Tetris. If you were good at those, this car's gonna be fantastic for you. I remember as a child sitting in the middle seat with 2 other people either side of me. You cannot sit shoulder to shoulder. Somebody has to pop their shoulder out and rest on somebody else, because, well, otherwise you just can't do it. It's extremely uncomfortable for everybody involved. It's not rear-wheel drive. This is front-wheel drive, front engine on behind me. So I'm going to hit the brakes, turn off the wipers. This is just above 2,000. I'm going to put my foot down. You can hear it. It's a low growl. Gets happier. I'm having to brake now because we're entering a speed limiter. You can probably see through the very misted windows. We're now in the lovely village of Petworth. Sorry, it's a town, not a village. We've been here before. This is sort of our driving route. I would like to take you further. Siri's listening to me again. I told you he does this. I would like to take you further, but unfortunately the road ahead is...
I don't know what you mean by I would like to take you further out.
He just listens all the time. Once we get out of Petworth, we have to double back because the road ahead's closed, and the other route I could take you is supremely long, and the days are short. It's winter, and Petworth is rather congested, so we'll get out of it. We'll stop in a car park for a bit, so have a bit of a in-depth talk about the interior of this car, which is... Right, viewers, you join me, believe it or not, on an iPhone camera. Anyway, to the car, as promised. So here it is, just a bog standard radio, FM, no DAB. These are preset buttons. The engine is obviously off, so you don't see anything. Radio media is, it has obviously a CD slot up here, and you can, in the glove box, there's a cable to plug in your iPhone so you can listen to music on that. That's what the media button allows you to select between. Scan buttons for FM channels. I believe this is traffic reporting. I also believe it doesn't work. Menu, I'm going to be honest with you, I've never pressed the menu button in my life. Traction control off. Unless you're filming a movie, you really never need to press that, and you should always leave your traction control on. It's just safer. Rear window heater or demister. Doesn't actually need to be on right now. It's, if you see in the mirror there, lovely and undemistered. That's not a word. Hazard lights. Obviously, these buttons here aren't buttons. You can press them. They are there for if you wanted optional extras. Namely, heated seats, heated steering wheel. In fact, I'm fairly sure this slot in the steering wheel here is where the heated steering wheel button would go. As a steering wheel, it's a nice big wheel. It's good to grip onto. You've got your horn here. It's electrically operating. The engine, obviously, you won't hear anything. And there are people in this car park who actually think turning it on would be quite bad. Aaron and I have experience with turning on a horn
in public, which is why you can hear him giggling.
Yeah.
We just turn the ignition on, and there go the wipers. So you see here your instrument cluster. The phone's not going to fit through the steering wheel. That's awkward. Oh, there we go. I know this is all jittery and I'm terrible. Rev counter, speedometer, no kilometers an hour in the speedo, but when you start driving, this mileage here, the long mileage that says exactly how far the car's gone, does change to a digital readout of your speed. You have your fuel gauge, clock, temperature, trip. Obviously you've got your warning lights. That's just because the ignition's on and I'm not wearing my seatbelt and the handbrake's on. That's those two. These three warning lights go off once the car drives. Interesting fact here, if we look at the fuel gauge here, there's an arrow next to it. That arrow is telling you actually that the fuel filler cap is located on the right hand side of the car. So you know when you drive into the car park, when you drive into the fuel station, that you need a fuel stop on the right. Put the ignition on and nobody on that car's still there. We're not going to horn it just yet. So here's your gear stick. Like I said, simple 5-speed reverse. You just put the foot on the clutch. You push down for reverse, and now you're in reverse. Otherwise, without reverse, without pushing down, you're in first. It's a nice safety feature, meaning you can't accidentally put her in reverse when you want first, because that would be a nightmare if you did that by accident. Handbrake, and then that's it really. You got your glove box. Messy, so I'm not actually going to show you. Your mirror, standard tinting. The sun visors. I learnt this far too late in life. If you put them down, obviously you see here, it doesn't make a full across. That's what this is actually for. This is so it's not plain glass and the sun won't shine brightly in your face. It will just sort of light up this little box area here. Why are they still there? I want to show off the bloody horn. I'm running out of things to show you in this very simple car. You do have electric windows. That's standard. And central locking. And like that, we are alone. Ignition on. It's a rather weak horn. But it's fair enough. As a horn goes, it's not very masculine, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't like doing it in this car. Whereas in my Defender, it's fun. There is an airbag, as you can see, here and here. Aaron's having a lovely fit of laughter. We've got 3 seats in the back and a shelf back there if you want to throw an umbrella on. Those 3 seats can fold down entirely, so Aaron's seat would go, and the shelf is removable. We're off back to our location. It has stopped raining. It's in fact sunny now, which is sod's law, isn't it? You prepare for one thing, the other thing happens. And we're driving through the British countryside in Surrey, which is officially known as an AONB, area of outstanding natural beauty. I would definitely agree with that assessment. It is a wonderful place. The views are amazing. The MPG in this is fantastic. I do have it written down somewhere. I'll be honest, it's on a script. Aaron, do we have the script with us? No, we were stupid and we left the script at home. I'll inform you later as to what the MPG is. How's that, buddy? Yeah. Bloody hell! Fire! And that is the danger of driving with Aaron Silver. When he sneezes and he doesn't warn you, it can be quite scary. It's not so much scary as it is surprising. He's obviously finding this extremely comical. And we're back once more at our secret filming location from the show. We are back here with the Volkswagen Polo, and as I promised, the 2 things I didn't know which I should know about this car, the car's weight and her MPG, I have checked. I had them, I just forgot them. The weight is 1,028 kilograms or 1.01 tons UK, which is apparently a long ton. 1,028 kilograms is the weight. What a long ton is, I don't know. Maybe you could write it and educate us. I don't know. As for the MPG, this is, as I've said, a 3-cylinder 1.2 litre petrol engine, which kicks back a 51.5 miles per gallon average MPG. So considerably better than the Defender, my other car, which is parked over there,
which is why I'm pointing. I'm not just pointing off. So that Defender has about 21 mpg, 54.5. Did I say? How do I already forget these figures? High 50s, middle 50s actually, middle 50s. For a Volkswagen Polo, a 3-cylinder petrol engine is a very good fuel economy. I don't know, again, what the tank holds in terms of how many litres. I say I don't know, I filled her up from empty. So when I fill her up from empty, she can hold about 45 litres in a petrol tank from empty. So 45 litres, her MPG is 51.5. Times those two together, you get about 2,137 miles of range on a tank. That's fantastic. Obviously, it's petrol, it's a fossil fuel. I don't deny that's bad. That is bad. We are killing our planet. We're in a climate emergency. But, best range I've seen on an electric car, 500 miles. 500 miles, 2,000 miles. I know which I would prefer for range only. Obviously, there are huge other back problems. I'm not a climate change denier. Climate change is a problem, man-made problem. We need to address it. And cars like this, even though they're small, even though they're very economical, fantastic range, very low CO2 emissions, the carbon footprint is still terrible. The Volkswagen Polo highlights for you once more: 60 brake horsepower, 79 pounds per foot of torque, 51.5 mpg, 1.2 litre 3-cylinder petrol engine. 3-door, available as a 5-door, shadow blue, £10,000 when new. If you were to get a Volkswagen Polo today, the Mark 6, from a dealership, the starting price is £15,000. The Polo. A fantastic first car, has my vote. A good city car too, nimble, able to get in tight parking spots when you have a driver who knows what they're doing. Unfortunately, that concludes this episode for us. Aaron, you're coming out here. Come on, you can do it. I'm Henry, as always. This lovely man is our editor, our cameraman, Aaron. Say hello to the ladies and gentlemen. This was episode 2 of Wheels on the Road. Until then, obviously, keep an eye on our Instagram channel for when episode 3 is coming out. Watch our social medias, they'll be appearing on screen about here, right now. Anything else to say?
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
I always forget that one. Like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, thanks very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again. And now we're going to get out of the drizzle that started falling. Bye.